Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Being on Mars. My name is Dr. Baruch Eliezer and it's great to have you here today. We will be exploring a remarkable book titled The Sea Priestess by Dion Fortune. I used excerpts from this book as inspiration for my novel, Being on Mars, Unexpected Miracles. Dion Fortune was a renowned occult teacher and activist during the first half of the 20th century. She wrote many books about occult wisdom, 9 of which were regarded as fiction novels. However, Dion Fortune was a very clever writer and used the genre of fiction to describe many esoteric teachings and rituals. The Sea Priestess is one of these novels in which she embeds a deep mystery about practical relations between the masculine and feminine spirits. I think it is important to understand that Dion Fortune was not a minor occultist, but an individual led by forces much greater than herself. She was genuinely concerned about the well-being of her followers and did her best to guide people through their difficult experiences with the supersensible world of things they did not understand. I'm using the term here, supersensible world, as is described by Rudolf Steiner, being a reality not directly perceptible to our 5 nominal senses. The supersensible world includes spiritual dimensions and forces that influence both the material world and human experience, but cannot be observed or measured through ordinary sensory perception or empirical science. The supersensible world describes the realms of the soul and spirit, such as the etheric world, the astral world, and the habitation of gods, where human souls journey during sleep, after death, and before birth. Dion Fortune uses many allusions within the set and setting of her story, as well as the lives of her main characters, to open our minds to this supersensible world. I am in deep gratitude to a blog post by the late Gareth Knight for a highly detailed description of the actual place in England on the shores of the Bristol Channel that inspired Dion Fortune to write her novel. Knight had a unique understanding of Dion Fortune because he was initiated into her Society of the Inner Light. He conducted his life as a respected occultist and author about esoteric teachings. Most of the story takes place at an old fortress built next to the sea at Somerset Down, a lovely beach on the Bristol Channel across from Cardiff, Wales. It is based on an actual abandoned set of buildings known as the Palmerston Fort, but the site has even a more extensive history, having once been the site of a Roman temple, and before then, as a Neolithic campsite dating back at least 10,000 years, and some would say from the time of the sinking of Atlantis. The actual fort is located on Brean Down, which is a spur of land that juts into the sea, a limestone outcrop 1.5 miles long and only a 1/4 mile wide. It is part of the Mendip Hills that rise above the sea. These hills include Glastonbury Tor and Brent Knoll. Another notable land feature is the River Axe, as well as its canals and tributaries. The region is dotted with numerous limestone caves, and notably the Cheddar Caves and Wookey Hole, which are a popular tourist attraction today, and where cheddar cheese is still stored and cured. It was once the property of Glastonbury Abbey in medieval times and later sold in the 17th century to a family of landed gentry, the Wyndhams. It is now in the care of the National Trust as a site of special scientific interest in terms of its archaeology and natural history, and it's also designated as a bird sanctuary. In her book, Dion Fortune renamed Brean Down as Bellhead, and the nearby town of Axbridge is most likely her fictional town of Dickmouth. The river Axe is referred to as the Narrow Dick, which is an allusion to the Atlantean river Neredek, which flowed past the Atlantean city of the Golden Gates. Many writers have fallen into Dion Fortune's trap of reading too much into her propensity of naming many sites as Dick. But she restrained herself, which was a good thing, as you can only laugh so much while reading her novel. Nobody should take her naming convention too seriously, except to note that, in the larger scheme of things, she's referring to the masculine power of the river discharging itself into the feminine essence of the sea. In her novel, the fort is owned by Vivian LaFay Morgan, bequeathed to her by an older woman whose family name was Morgan. After the old woman dies, Vivian LaFay adds the family name Morgan to her own. At the beginning of the story, she is an old woman, much older than Wilfred Maxwell, who will take charge of remodeling the old fort for her. Vivian claims to have known Wilfred's father, which he scarcely believes, given her youthful appearance. Vivian consents to have Wilfred Maxwell remodel and reconstruct the fort to her liking. The remodeling of the fort is a slow act which will bring Wilfred and Vivian together. They will develop a platonic relationship filled with sexual tension, from which the careful reader will discover fundamental secrets of the spiritual relationship between the masculine and feminine. During the opening of the book, we meet Mrs. Maxwell, Wilfred's overbearing and controlling mother. Betty Roberts, Wilfred's sister, who is married and represents the conventional life that Wilfred finds unsatisfying. Dr. Raymond Trethwan, a man who offers Wilfred good advice. And Benji, a simple-minded youth who's tragically swept into the sea by a rising tide. It's Benji's death that lets us know that the sea is unpredictable and merciless. The reconstruction and remodeling of the building is an allusion to the transformation of Vivian LaFay Morgan into the Sea Priestess, Morgan Le Fay, and constitutes the basis for the relationship between her and Wilfred. This concludes part 1 of my analysis of the Sea Priestess. In part 2, I will describe the chapters that I used in my novel, Being on Mars, Unexpected Miracles. You can find links to more information about Unexpected Miracles and links to references to learn more about Dion Fortune and the Sea Priestess in the show notes below.